Today we are going to Argentina, so sit back as we go to the late 1970s. Yiya Murano was born in Corrientes in Argentina on May the 20th, 1930. Her mother stayed at home and brought up her children, and her father had been in the military. When Yiya was young, the family moved to Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, and Yiya was fascinated by all the tall buildings and hectic pace of the city. She was also fascinated by the wealth in the city, the elegantly dressed people, and the wonderful shops with designer brands. It came as no surprise that she married a lawyer named Yiya Murano. He wanted his wife to stay at home rather than go to work, and his wife was very happy to oblige with his request. She would spend most of her days meeting friends and shopping. She liked to buy designer clothes and jewellery from the most recognisable brands. She gave off a sense of being a very cultured and well-off person, but in reality she wasn't. She wasn't well educated, and along with her husband, lived in a depressing 2-bedroom apartment with old furniture and damp walls. When she was not with her friends, they would joke about her excessive expenditure and her love of anything with a designer label, but they also considered her to be a caring person. And Yiya had a way of convincing people that she was rich. She always told them that she made money by investing. She would say that she had discovered a formula which meant that when she invested money, the returns she would get would be far better than any investment company or bank. Although many of her friends didn't believe her, she was always spending money, and part of them thought that maybe she had stumbled on a way of making lots of money, and they would love to be part of it. Yiya was a good talker, and always sounded convincing when talking about her investments, so offered 3 of her closest friends the opportunity of investing in her money-making scheme and sharing her success. One of Yiya's best friends was her cousin, named Carmen Zulema, who had been a widow for some time. Carmen's husband had been an important businessman in Argentina, and when he died he left his wife a large sum of money, so Carmen and her daughter would have a prosperous future without him. The cousins were very close and used to exchange little gifts. Carmen gave plants to Yiya, who in exchange made delicious cakes for Carmen. In January 1979, Yiya told her cousin about how much money she was making in her wonderful investment scheme, and convinced Carmen to give her 20 million pesos to invest, promising her cousin amazing returns on the money. Yiya signed a promissory note that stated that on March the 27th of the same year, she would return the full amount, plus great returns on the investment. Carmen agreed and handed over 20 million pesos to her cousin. March arrived, and Carmen was looking forward to the return of her investment. But on March the 24th, 3 days before Carmen was due to get her money, she began to feel very ill, and became so concerned that she left her apartment to ask for help. The pain, however, was so bad that when she reached the top of the stairs, she fell, and like a doll rolled down from the top to the bottom. On seeing her fall, the doorman, named Jose Gonzalez, phoned for an ambulance. With all the commotion, the neighbours all came to see what was going on, and then suddenly, Yiya appeared at the building. She asked the doorman for a set of keys to her cousin's apartment, as she said that she would have to contact her cousin's family and friends to let them know what had happened. She said she would need the phone book. Jose knew she was a friend of Carmen's, so thinking this was normal, obliged with her request. A short time later she left the building with a small bottle and some papers, and as she passed the doorman she loudly cried, "My God, she is a 3rd friend of mine who has died this year, and it's only the end of March." Carmen died on her way to hospital, and the doctor who produced Carmen's death certificate indicated that the cause of death was non-traumatic cardiac arrest. A few days later, Carmen's daughter went to the police to inform them that she was concerned about the circumstances surrounding her mother's death. She said that her mother had been in very good health, and that following her mother's tragic demise, a promissory note had gone missing from the apartment. She explained how the doorman had given Yiya keys to the apartment, and that she had left carrying papers and a jar. The daughter suspected someone may have poisoned her mother, and demanded that the police conduct an autopsy. The police decided to investigate the case and following the autopsy discovered that there was cyanide present in Carmen's stomach. They were on alert as they thought they may have a murder case on their hands, and as Yiya was one of the closest people to the victim and the first person to enter her apartment after she died, they decided to investigate her further. They soon discovered that Yiya had a friend named Nilda Gamba, who on February the 11th, 1979, had died unexpectedly. They thought this was very strange, as there was only a 6-week period between the two deaths. On Friday the 9th of February, Nilda went to dinner at the Muranos, where she stayed until 1 o'clock in the morning. The next day she had terrible pains in her stomach. Fortunately, her neighbour was a doctor, and he prescribed medicine for her and told her to stay in bed. Nilda phoned Yiya and asked her to come over and look after her, which of course she did, and as a good friend stayed by her bedside while she tried to recover. She tried to feed her and gave her tea, but soon after, Nilda died. When the doctor returned, he found his patient dead in the bed and asked why Yiya hadn't phoned a medic, and she calmly replied that she wasn't authorised to do so. The doctor who produced the death certificate stated the cause of death as cardiac arrest. The police applied to get Nilda's body exhumed, and an autopsy was conducted. Just like with Carmen's body, traces of cyanide were found in the stomach of the deceased. Further investigations showed that she too had invested in Yiya's amazing money-making scheme. As the police continued to look into the strange deaths of Yiya Murano's friends, they uncovered another one. Leila Formisano was a great friend of Yiya, and following Nilda's death, the two ladies had arranged to go to the beautiful coastal city of Mar del Plata. Before they went, Yiya went to Leila's apartment. It was February the 19th, 1979. Yiya said that she wanted to see her friend at her apartment in preparation for the trip, but when she arrived at her friend's apartment, there was no answer. So Yiya presumed that her friend was not home. She made a point of leaving a message with the doorman named Carlos Alberto Zamora. An hour later, Yiya returned looking desperately for her friend. As the doorman was not around, she asked the doorman's wife if she had seen her friend. The doorman's wife was confused, as a few hours earlier she had seen the two women leave together. "But she went out with you," the lady said. Yiya replied, "Yes, I know, but she had to go back because she did not feel well." Yiya returned again that night, this time with tickets for the cinema, but again there was no answer. After 3 days of no one being able to get a response from Leila's apartment, the doorman called the police, who managed to enter the building via the neighbour's balcony, where they found Leila dead, sitting in a chair with the TV turned on. The death certificate gave a cause of death as natural causes. The police now exhumed the body and again found traces of cyanide in the deceased's stomach. They also discovered that she too had invested in Yiya's money-making scheme. Yiya Murano was arrested at her home on April 27, 1979. She was interviewed by police but denied all the charges made against her. She did admit to making cakes, but not poisonous ones. She did confirm that the 3 women who had died had invested in her money-making scheme, but said they knew there were risks as well as rewards. Yiya was sent to prison to await her trial. She was always a very charming person and became very popular with both staff and fellow inmates. But that did not stop the prosecutor demanding that her sentence be life in prison. On May 6, 1980, a prison guard found her lying in her cell with excruciating pain. She was transferred to hospital, where she had surgery, and the doctor said that she had had a stroke. Before the surgery, she asked the nurse for a pen and paper to tell her story. She recovered from both the operation and the stroke, so decided her story would stay with her. On June 15, 1982, after 3 years and 45 days in detention, a judge acquitted Yiya of all charges against her, and she was released. The prosecutor in her case, however, appealed the ruling, and in June 1985, the courts overturned the decision, sentencing her to life imprisonment, and she was returned to her cell. In 2001, she was released after serving 16 years of her sentence. There are many people in Argentina who support the theory that Yiya has in fact killed at least 2 more people. There is insufficient evidence to charge her with any other poisonings. Yiya has always claimed that she is an innocent woman. The crimes of Yiya Murano are very famous in Argentina. There have been books about her, TV shows, and even a play called Yiya the Musical. It is even possible to buy Yiya Murano merchandise. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for listening to another sad and tragic case. As per usual, please leave any comments or feedback you may have, and I will see you in the next brief case.